Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Shady Beshai here with Combat Sports UK. Today we're joined by Miranda the Maverick, who looks to add one more to an impressive win streak in just under 3 weeks at UFC Fight Night Tampa, Covington versus Buckley. Miranda, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. I know your schedule is super busy. You have so much going on outside of fighting. So before we dive into the fights, can you share some of the different things that you're working on? And is there one that takes up most of your time outside of fighting?
Yeah, so outside of fighting, I do have a lot going on. I also work a full-time job for the Hershey company, the chocolate company. So I work for them as a data analyst, so I'm a bit of a nerd, but at the executive level, so that pays off. And then I also have my own businesses I run, which I fill in the blanks with, especially when I don't have fight camp coming up. I can spend more time in those when I take days off. And luckily, my business is pickles and honey, so it doesn't have to be something that gets ruined in a week. It stays shelf safe for quite a little while, so if I make it a month ago and just like stack them up, then I'm good to go for a couple months, which makes it real nice for fight camps, even though every now and then I still have to restock a little bit. But my business is called prowlerpickles.com, and then High Stakes Honey also falls within that same website. So if you go to prowlerpickles.com, I have it split between like my pickling stuff and my honey. I also have like beeswax candles. I have Bloody Mary mixes, jalapenos, asparagus, and I'll basically ship anywhere. So if you guys are interested in it or want to check it out, go to prowlerpickles.com, and then you can also go follow me on Instagram and Twitter at prowlerpickles or at High Stakes Honey.
That's incredible. So I knew about some of the smaller businesses, but I didn't know that you're juggling also a full-time job. This is insane. It's like you have more hours in the day than the rest of us.
I know. I always get asked that. I just I don't do anything else, I guess is the best way to say it. I don't, with my free time, I don't have free time. And like I said, with my businesses, it's nice because I'm able to kind of load up and I can take a week or two off from touching any of it. And have other people now that are helping me. I actually had a Sunday, that's all I did all day was pickle stuff. And I had a couple teenagers come over and help and just pay them, and help me get some work done that I usually would take 3 days to do, so that was helpful. And my full-time job, I just fit it in between my trainings. I luckily work fully remote and it's pretty flexible. I've recently transitioned into another position that is not near as flexible as my last one. So definitely struggling with that, but making it work for now. I want to be able to have a job that can support my family once I get done with fighting, and not them be like, well, you have a degree, but no job experience. Here you go as an entry-level position.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, kudos to you. You're doing a wonderful job. And I think, I mean, you highlighted some of the bigger ones, but I saw, you're doing merch and you're out and about and you got the family life. So it's really incredible watching especially seeing the updates on your socials. So that's incredible.
Thank you.
You're headed into I think it's your third fight in 10 months, right? Your activity has been increased. I think it is. Yeah, you had February and there was one in between. And there's two in between now. Yeah, this is your third fight in 10 months. So I mean, it sounds like you balance it by just having the right team, having the right folks, loading up on your free days. Your scheduling, do you ever sleep? Are you what percentage are you in the gym these days, especially during camp?
I know. I definitely, like I said, I have a granny planner. Like I literally have a written out paper planner that I write every 30 minutes what I'm going to do on. And like anytime I have free, I obviously have interviews that I do, or I'm pickling, or I'm trying to pack up honey, or I'm shipping out packages. And obviously my husband will help where he can. He does a lot of like running errands for me that I need, and we need, I should say. So that's helpful, of course. But yeah, it's busy. And when I get closer to my fights, there's no more pickling, no more honey, it's like, stop. And I'm like, well, like this past Sunday, I was like, all right, that's my last like big day. I'm just going to get help from these two and get what I need to make me through the fight. Okay.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. So let's shift a little bit into the octagon, into the fight stuff, right? So you were originally scheduled to fight Tracy Cortez. That would have been a very exciting matchup, especially given the streak you're on. And it felt a little bit, it seemed to me at least, that you were being rewarded for the streak that you're on. You're on a winning streak. I think you have 5 in your last 6. You're on a 3 fight, about to be a 4 fight, hopefully in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Do one, I want to ask, like, what was it like getting notified that it's not going to happen? And then also, do you have any sort of frustration or disappointment? Sometimes fighters will say, this happened for a reason. I'm totally fine with it. It doesn't impact me at all. Other fighters will say, this actually just makes me more angry and I'm going to win even in a more dominant fashion now.
Yeah, that's kind of the point I'm coming with. I don't know if you knew it, but I was booked for Tracy last fight too.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm very frustrated. We gave it an 80% chance that she was going to drop out both times. If you look at Tracy's past fights, she's had 6 fights, and in the same amount of time, she's dropped out of 7 now, including my own. So it was
Wow.
like, yeah, there's a trend there. She just fights
Yeah.
when she wants to fight, and somehow she gets favoritism from, putting herself on Instagram with filters and shit, that she can get a fight whenever she wants, and then she can say no to fights whenever she wants and doesn't get punished, so to speak, for it. Where the rest of us, if I say no to a fight and it's a 3-day notice and I'm in bed with COVID, they're like, "Oh, it's fine," and then I get told next time, "Well, you're gonna have to wait. You already turned down a fight," and it's like,
Yeah.
well, I get it. It's politics. It is the way it is, but it's very frustrating. And, last time, because I got a short notice opponent change and stuff because she got pulled up to fight Rose, they were like, "Oh, don't worry, we'll get you a top ranked opponent next time. No worries." I told them I didn't want to fight Tracy because I didn't think she would show up. Guess who I got booked with? Tracy again. I was like, fine, I'll fight her. I don't have a problem with fighting her. Like, I'm ready to go whoop her ass, but she's not going to show up. And here we are again. Not showing up. I get another short notice opponent, but it's not even short notice. It was 5 weeks out, and nobody would say yes that was in the top 15, which pisses me
Mm.
off even more. It's like
Yeah.
I've been on the cusp of number 14 and 15 for the last 2 years almost, especially since I fought Andrea in February. Like, I've been in the 14, in the 15, in the 15, not in the rankings, then in the 15.
Yeah.
It just kind of depends on the day that they decide to put the rankings up. And now I finally got to fight a ranked opponent again, or supposed to have, and now I don't get one again. So it's just, I do believe that things happen for a reason, and I'm having faith that this is going to work out for the best, but it is very frustrating. I want to move up the ladder, not stay stagnant for 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like a lot of deja vu, and just as a fight fan, as a viewer, like I wanted to see that fight. I
Yeah.
wanted to see that fight, so now I don't get to see it. And I don't imagine that if they offered you that name again, it's almost just like, we're gonna do this again,
I don't
guys.
want
Like,
to. Yeah, I literally
right,
told her, I'm like, I don't want her offered to me again. Like, she's gonna probably
right.
drop out again. This is the third time. What I give her, how many chances do we give her to fight and me just keep getting short notice nobodies? And
Yeah,
not to
I
say
understand.
nobody's, that's really mean. I don't think anybody in the UFC is a nobody. I'm really happy that Jamie stepped up. I already messaged her and was like, hey, thanks so much. Let's put on a dance,
Wow.
let's get in there and put on a performance, because we had so many people we asked and they said no. And I'm like, what in the hell? Like, what is
Yeah,
going on? And so finally I was like, I don't care about rankings anymore. Just give me a fight. Like, I want to fight December 14th. And they were like, okay. And Jamie said yes. So I was like, thank you. Appreciate it.
wow. That's so noble that you messaged her, and I mean, even you saying like, I forget the rankings at this point. I just need a fight. I need to show, what I could do, and so that's good to hear.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's the third fight on my contract, and I'm like, I want to keep moving up. I want to get in
Yeah.
there, and a win's a win, and I don't get paid anymore for fighting a ranked opponent or not. I just, in the long run, it obviously is beneficial for me to fight a ranked opponent.
Yeah, and I think keeping your activity, it's like the best practice, the best way to get better is the activity. We've seen that
Yeah.
historically, and looking at your history, you seem to be getting better every win that you've had in the streak so far.
Yeah, I hope so. I always want to stay more active, and that doesn't always happen. Like, I get real frustrated. I can't have 4 a year. That would be
Yeah.
ideal for me. 3 a year is fine with me, but like the few years that I've had like 2 every year, I'm like, come on, like, and
Yeah.
I stay ready for short notices, and I think that's the hardest part is I'm always ready for one. Like, it's not
Yeah,
like I
absolutely.
just like chill between my fights. I barely ever get a full fight camp. This is one of the first ones I've ever had, so I'm like, okay, like, let's get me in there again. Like, after this, I'm like, give me a ranked opponent. Let's go in February.
Yeah. And to speak on the whole top 15 thing, like, you're in and out of the rankings, and it seems like when somebody gets matched up with an opponent in the top 15, it's usually an indicator that they're, it depends on how dominant the wins are, but they're like 2 to 3, maybe 4 wins away from a title shot. So I
Mhm.
guess my question is like, do you have any reassurances? Like, do you still feel comfortable that you're in that zone? Like you have you're getting an opponent now that's not in the rankings, but do you feel like that's gonna set you back a lot?
No, not necessarily set back, but I do have this belief, and I think my coaches believe, and I think my performances show, like, I'm up way higher than where I'm at. Like,
Yeah.
there's a reason girls are turning me down. I've got a hard style for a lot of these girls. I've got good grappling, pretty great wrestling, and then my striking's up there too. So, like, if they don't have decent grappling, they're not going to want to fight me. And if they don't have fundamental striking and just grappling, they're probably not going to want to fight me. And I get it. It's like a huge risk if they're only ranked like 15 or not at all, depending on the week, and then you're in the rankings. It's like, oh, I don't want to fight this person
Right. I don't
because it's
want
a
to lose
risky
my
one.
spot.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, come on, this is the fight world. Since when did we turn into oh, I just pick the easy ones? Like, this is ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge topic now in the UFC of picking your opponent and stuff like that. So,
Mm.
and it's very clear that you land on the opposite end of that. Give me a fighter, I'm gonna win. I want to keep going. Very cool.
Yep.
Well, I heard in another interview that you did that you not only do you study your opponent, but you study yourself. And this is not something that I've heard other people say. And I think the explanation was that you study yourself to see what in your performance or what holes or gaps might they try to expose or might they try to outshine. And that was incredible. That really goes to show your fight IQ. And it's one thing that stuck with me from that interview. And I always think about it. And I wonder if other fighters ever think in that way. It's like, is that something that a coach taught you? Was it just like a natural thought process of yours? Like, how did you come about to say, let me look at myself, my past fights, and see what is this person good at that they might try to exploit in my game?
To me, it's common sense. I think it's silly when people don't watch their own fights and study them as an opponent. Because, like, I'm doing the same thing to them. I would expect them to
Mhm.
study me. If they're not, they're ridiculous. They should be. At least the coaches should be. And so, if they are watching my fights and seeing the holes, why would I just ignore my own problems? Like, I want to go in and I want to strengthen my weaknesses, strengthen my strengths. And, you go back and watch my Aaron Blanchfield fight, for instance. That's the most embarrassing fight for me because it's the only fight in my whole career that I've truly lost, like in the UFC career at least, where I'm like, yep, she beat me every round. And she beat me because of these two things, or this one thing, or these five things, whatever it is. And I go in and I'm like, I had never been taken down before. That was a problem for me, I'm like,
Yeah,
I got taken down and I was like, oh my goodness, I just got taken down. I've never been here before. And, my ground game wasn't the best on the bottom. I'm great top. Like I'll beat somebody's butt. But as soon as I got on bottom, I was like, man, I'm stuck here, and I got frustrated with myself, and because I underestimated her, I just kind of went downhill from there. So mentally I had a problem, and then physically I of course had things I could improve on. So why not watch that? Then I have other fights where it's like, well, my wall work wasn't the best in this fight. I can see that if I was my opponent, I'd be like, just put her on the wall, she'll suck there. And I'm like, okay, well, they're never going to do that crap to me again. I'm going to get so good at wall work, they're not even going to know who that is. And then the same thing with whatever stance I'm using, what direction I'm moving. I try to improve and improve and improve to where when I walk into that ring, nobody's watched any film of me because I'm a
yeah,
different fighter.
yeah. It's a testament to your preparation and your team's preparation. So it was very interesting to hear that, and I'm glad you were able to elaborate a little bit more on it.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, One of the other things I noticed when I was looking at all the different businesses, just to step away from fighting for another second, when I looked at your businesses and what you got going on, and I follow in your socials, I noticed that you and your husband are planning on adopting soon. So that's incredible.
Yeah,
Congratulations, first
yeah,
of all.
thank you.
I, it's such an exciting chapter, and I wanted to ask, is there even a consideration in terms of fight timeline and then family timeline? Do you ever think, let's pause this or that, or how's this going to impact that, or is it like family comes first, fight, or they're both 100%? How do you manage that split? How do you prioritize when to do what?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Obviously, like right now, the one of the main reasons I was frustrated about Tracy dropping out is they were like, well, what about taking like Myra Buena Silva got thrown into the mix, and I was like, I'll fight her, let's do it. And they were like, okay. And then it came back, they were like, my guess is her weight, they were like, well, she'll fight you in February. And I'm like, absolutely
Mm,
not. Like, I have literally my a newborn adoption on the line for
right,
this. Like the
right.
day after my fight, we want to start matching. And that doesn't necessarily mean I'll have a baby in my hands by February, but it
Of
could
course.
be, and
Yeah,
I want to focus on that. That's kind of a decision obviously we've made, and to me that's a huge priority. Like if I got the call and had to go pick up a baby or go to a fight, I'd probably be like, sorry, gotta pick up this newborn, and I gotta fly out to Florida
absolutely.
to pick up this newborn, not fight. So that's why I'm trying to arrange it around the fights to where I can do both competently. And obviously we'll have to let go of some other things once that child arrives. I already told you the schedule's so packed. I will be letting go. I don't know yet. We're trying to decide that, but probably the full-time job position. We'll see.
Right.
Um,
At a certain point, we
yeah,
got to make
something
some
has to
room.
give. Yeah, something has to give. But the good thing is everything's remote, and like the pickles and honey is kind of on a whatever schedule I put on it basis, and I can get other people to help me, which is nice. But
Very nice.
that being said, the child is first priority once that becomes a thing. But right now the fight's the priority, and that's why
Right.
I've put it after my fight is so I don't have anything in the way that I'm thinking
The
about.
next day
But
you said, right?
yeah, the next day we'll
Very
basically
nice.
say go because we've already gotten all the legal obligations done. And if nobody knows about like private newborn adoption, it's a
Hmm.
long, expensive process. So we've
Yeah.
gone through all the legal stuff, we've gone through all the training, we've gotten our like profile ready to go pretty much, and all we're gonna have to do is basically say, okay, we're ready to put it live, and they will, because we've decided not to yet. But we're very excited, and at some point in the future, I don't know if I'll decide to try to have children of my own. I mean, I do want to do that, but I don't know the timeline of that, of course. I don't know if I'll still be fighting and then go back to fighting, family and all that. That's a huge decision to make, with them. It won't
Yeah.
be just a me decision or even myself and my husband. I want to speak to family, coaches, all the above. And maybe someday in the future, I'll tell the little story of what's happened recently, with coaches, but we'll just say that they convinced me to do it a little longer than what I was planning, you know?
Okay, okay. Well, it's been beautiful watching the family updates and you guys posting that decision. We'll shift back for just a second to the octagon. So
Mhm,
looking at Jamie Lynn Horth, where do you
mhm.
think your performance in the octagon outweighs her? Like what's your strong points? Unless you don't want to reveal it. I know your fight IQ, you clearly are doing a great job with the fight IQ and studying. Where do you think that you're going to dominate, especially in this fight?
Yeah, I mean, I'm don't have a problem within this fight. Like I said, I thank Jamie for stepping up big time. I truly think I'm better than her in every area. This is a fight where I'm like, obviously, there's a puncher's chance at anything. Obviously, fighting is one of those things where anything can happen. But I've prepared to the point, like, I think I'm ready for a top five, top 10 opponent kind of thing. I have full confidence going into this. I've been sparring with very good, very hard people and been doing decently, guys and girls. And I'm ready. Like on the ground, I absolutely know I'm better than her. There's proof in the pudding on that, like just from watching her fights. I've trained with two of her opponents that she's fought already. What's interesting is she's fought only southpaws in her UFC career so far, and I'm also a southpaw usually, but I changed stances and I've been working on that more and more. So I think I could really surprise her in any area. I wonder if that had a little bit to do with why they decided to go ahead and take the fight. I have no idea.
Yeah.
So like Haley Cohen's a friend of mine. She fought her in her debut. And I don't want to talk bad about Haley or anything, but I do very well in rounds with her. So I'm very
Mm,
confident against Jamie in every area. Not that fight math always works out, but my
right.
striking has come so far, even in my last few fights, and it just keeps growing from there. My grappling is always getting better, but I'm confident with it just about against anybody, within three people in my division, I'd be happy with my grappling. So I welcome her to the cage, and I'm excited to fight her. And no matter what happens, I'm happy she took the fight, and I'm happy to be able to be in there.
Okay, that's a great insight into kind of where your mind is at heading into this. And one of the things that I sometimes check is like the odds, like where do fighters land on the odds, and I'm always
Mhm.
interested in their opinions on it. You are not only a favorite for this fight, I think you've been a favorite for every UFC fight you've had so far, from what I could
I
tell.
I think so, yeah. The Macy one is the only one where I think on some channels I wasn't, but I think every other fight I have been a favorite on, which was amusing. Obviously, there's certain channels out there that don't agree with all that, but overall, I think I just do what I can to show up, and I think I have a persona that adds to that confidence as well. And I get the same level of hate like when I had the injury against Jasmine in the fight and lost. I got so much hate on social media
Right.
and stuff, and I was like, sorry, I can't help who you bet on. I can't help getting injured in the middle of a fight. And people are
Yeah.
just like, what happened? I'm like, you obviously don't read or keep up with any interviews or news. Like, I went blind in round two. So sorry that it hurt your wallet book.
Yeah,
Like,
I can't imagine like where the logic is in being upset at the fighter because they cost you. I mean, you didn't tell people to bet on you or anything.
no, no. And even if we did, it's not like we're getting any pennies from it. You want to give
Right. I
me a
mean,
few cents, then I'll be upset with you.
you ever wonder though, like a lot of fighters are like when they're an underdog, they're like, "Oh, I love it. I want to be the underdog." Like, or does it
I
just
don't
not
care.
impact you that much?
I just don't care. I've been the
Okay.
underdog before in Invicta. I'd say it's funny because almost every fight in Invicta I was an underdog. And then I
Wow.
got to the UFC
360.
and it's like, yeah, well, I think the Phoenix Series tournament made a big difference. Like
Okay.
when I had the three fights in a night and beat everybody and they were like, who the crap is this 20-year-old year
We need to
old? You
correct these
know?
numbers, these odds.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I was like, yeah, like nobody's even giving me a chance out there. And I did. I improved at a fast rate. Like watching my fights, like at the beginning of Invicta and even the beginning of UFC, I'm like, whoa, my goodness, this is terrible. Like, and that's part of the reason I like watching my fights. It not only helps me with my own fight IQ, but it gives me a lot of confidence. I'm like, I would have beat the
Yeah.
brakes off of me just a year ago.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're using that evolution and to say, okay, how can I evolve from where I am now? How can I get better again?
Yeah,
That's very
yeah.
cool. Well, all right, we'll wrap it up with a fun one. Kind of
All
phony.
right.
So Dana's doing a lot of this stuff with the gloves and announcing that old gloves, new gloves, old gloves, new gloves. I'm a huge, you could tell, where are they? They're over here, this way, that way.
Yeah.
I have a ton of gloves. I have the new ones, I have the old ones. And every
Uh-huh.
time I look at a picture of a fight or whatever, I sometimes will use the gloves to reference like where it was in the timeline. Like,
Mhm.
do you have do you have a preference? Like, do you care what you're, cause I can't even tell what the fight's gonna be in 3 weeks. Like if it's gonna be the old gloves or new gloves. We just saw them go back to the new ones that were now the new old ones. What do you have any idea what's going on? Do you have a preference? Do you
I
care?
I literally have no idea. On top of that, I will say that the newer gloves or whatever that they released are junk. They're absolute junk.
Okay.
But I don't care. They're getting taped up the same. And like as a 125-pound female, I'm not getting knocked out left and right. You know, I might have a problem with them if like this much thinner of the stuff was getting me
Yeah.
like knocked out. But I'm not too worried about it. I don't think they helped with finger pokes. I think there's been more finger pokes since the new gloves than there ever were before, you know, so that was all nonsense. And I also don't like the idea of them being shaped like this because I'm a
Hmm.
grappler. I want to be able to
Right.
grab you. How about we just make rules stricter of no freaking poking people in the eyes? I'm full proponent of no poking in the eyes.
Yeah, it's incredible seeing so many fighters. Like they, a lot of fighters have very strong opinions on them. Like I know Charles Johnson was really upset that they announced they're going back. And then some fighters are like, listen, gloves are gloves, and as you know, if somebody's complaining, they're probably just looking for a reason to complain about
Yeah.
it. And it's
Yeah.
weird, like it seems like they don't ask you guys much. And 309 happens in MSG, they just make these crazy announcements. Now we're going backwards on the announcements, so it's just funny for me to watch and ask fighters about. So they didn't tell you, they don't tell you what to train in right now. You have no clue. When are you gonna find
Uh,
out? Fight week?
oh, like the gloves?
Yeah.
Oh, when they hand them to us when we get our fight kit, probably. And they say, hey, try these on and see which ones fit you, or do you think you're good? And it's just like, okay. I don't even pay attention though. Like literally, I get paid to go in there and fight. I don't care what gloves they
Right.
put on, as long as I have gloves on. I definitely don't want to do bare knuckle right now, you know?
Right.
So as long as they're 4 ounces and cover my hands and keep me from getting cut, I'm happy.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, Miranda, I am sure I speak for a lot of viewers when I say I can't wait to see your fight. We wish you the best of luck with the fight, with the businesses, everything going on now in outside of the octagon, the adoption, your family. So thanks so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll talk to you after the win.
Yeah, thank you. If you guys want to check it out, it's prowlerpickles.com, fearthemaverick.com for all my merch. And then you can, of course, follow on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at Fear the Maverick. And I have the baby registry on there too if you want to help out.
Very nice. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.